Hey everybody, this is theoretical bullshit once again. It is the middle of the night, but it's California and I'm sweating my face off. But what are you gonna do? I'm gonna try to keep this quick and quiet because I've got somebody sleeping in my bed right now. Because I'm a stud. That's not true. I can't back that up. That I'm a stud. Anyway, I was at somebody's house and somebody had given them a copy of this book by Joel Osteen. I don't. If you don't know who he is, he's this evangelical sort of preacher, motivational speaker. He's written books and he does like seminar. If you don't recognize the name, I'm sure you'll recognize the face. Anyway, the name of the book is Your Best Life Now. What was it? 7 Steps to Living at Your Full Potential. And I opened the book and I was just flipping through for fun, for kicks, you know. Each section of the book has like a little sort of quote or just like a highlighted, piece of text that's in the dialogue, but not. I don't know. Anyway, it's got this little like quote thing, and it says, "God is not going to change anyone you are dealing with until He first changes you." Come on, man. Right off the bat, you're like dealing with like a logical freaking fallacy here. God's not going to change anyone you're dealing with until He first changes you. Well, let's say you're dealing with a guy named Bob, right? And you're reading this book and you're thinking about how you're going to deal with Bob, and you read that God is obviously not going to change Bob until He first changes you. But what if Bob gets a hold of this book and Bob reads that God is not going to change you unless He first changes Bob? And I get the point. I get the point of the quote. It's really just to say that you can't expect somebody to change for you. You have to be willing to do the work. But when you start thinking airy-fairy and mystically like that, then you're going to get yourself in trouble. Why not just say, don't expect somebody else to change. You have to work on changing yourself. It's not your job to worry about them. Isn't that the lesson that we should be learning here? Anyway, I digress. That's not why I brought this up. Anyway, I want to read to you a snippet of this anecdote and tell you what I'm thinking here. He says, "One day I was driving to church and I was running a bit late for an important meeting. I knew that if I could avoid any traffic jams, I'd get there just in time. But I caught every single stoplight going out of the neighborhood. Yada, yada, yada. I started praying as I drove, but the more I prayed, the longer it took me to get through the traffic lights. I finally steered onto the highway and took off toward the church as fast as I could drive, praying the whole time that God would give me the discernment to know which hill the policemen were waiting behind. I had just enough time to make it to my meeting. As I kept going, much to my chagrin, the traffic started moving slower and slower. I thought, oh no, what's going on? Eventually, the traffic came to a complete stop. And I thought, anyway, he goes into like, he kind of like the way he tells it, it's kind of like the beginning of Office Space, where the credits are rolling and like Ron Livingston sort of switches lanes because the lane that he's in is completely stopped, but the lane that he switches to seems like it's moving pretty fast. And then once he gets into that lane stops, and then the other lane that he was just in starts moving. Anyway, he gets to the conclusion, and he kind of like, he summarizes with, he says, I didn't realize that God was testing me in the area of my patience. That's where I put down the book and I was like, oh, okay. I get what you're trying to do. I get that it's a good thing to look at things, like, oh, this happened for a reason, or there's a bright side to this, or, oh, good, look, this is an opportunity for me to practice patience. It's another thing to say that the whole reason for all this traffic, the reason that this person is coming into my lane and this person is taking too long to switch lanes, and the reason that all these people are going to work or coming home at the same time, all these people happen to be on the freeway, the reason for all of that, God has put all that together just so that He can test Joel. I know you're trying to come from a place of humility, but my God, can't you see how egocentric that is, how narcissistic of a philosophy to believe that the all-powerful creator of the universe manipulated everybody else's car to move in exactly the same way, direction, fashion, and speed in such a way as to prevent you from getting to the place you need to go so that you can learn something valuable. But that's even beside the point. Doesn't that idea completely contradict the doctrine of free will? Isn't that a contradiction to free will? Aren't people allowed to make the choices that they make and have the thoughts that they have without being puppeteered? Traffic isn't just a bunch of cars moving. Traffic is about people making choices. The reason traffic exists is because people, all these people at the same time, on the same day, have decided to go onto the freeway. They've made the choice to switch into this lane or that lane. They've made the choice to take a long time or to drive slow or to drive fast. That's what traffic is. It's a bunch of choices that are all happening at the same time that makes things go slowly. And for God to be manipulating traffic, that means God is manipulating people's choices. So if you are a Christian and you've ever had a thought like this, you were wrong. I guess that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that all Christians believe this. I'm not making a straw man argument here, but I have heard this a lot. I've heard people say, "Oh, that was just God testing my patience," or "This was just God answering my prayer," or this. It would be very hard for God to do something like that without manipulating and changing the choices and actions and thoughts of others. And if you really do believe that we are allowed to make the choices and decisions that we make, then you can't be expecting the actions of other people to be God doing something for you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again for my Jerry Springer final thought. I've never had a Jerry Springer final thought before, but it's that time this time. If you're stuck in traffic, if somebody's cutting you off, if things just aren't going your way and you're looking to the heavens for a reason, well, there is a reason for everything. That's not the same thing as there being a purpose for everything, but everything does have a reason. Everything does have a cause, and maybe, just maybe, the reason for that person cutting you off or getting in your lane has to do with their intentions for their day, not God's intentions for your day. Just putting it out there. Anyway, I just thought that was amusing and bothersome at the same time. Nothing but a rant, that's all. I'm going to bed. Good night, everybody.